I said, this is where we die. Well, my pilot story is a very sad story. Aviation has been my life passion, and I found a small aircraft and I just purchased it, learned to fly, and that was my first flying experience. And I was hooked. I started flying with my little Cessna into mostly Texas, McAllen, Laredo, San Antonio. At that time, my son was growing up. He was, I want to say, 14, 15. And we sent him to a military academy up in Wisconsin. The military academy had a aviation program. So when I dropped him off to school, he said, "Hey, Dad, this school has aviation. Should I join?" I said, "By all means." I didn't want to push him, but I mean, once he knew that aviation was available, he jumped at the idea. And his grades were going up impressively. He was making like the highest grades in all of his schoolwork. And the aviation was, I mean, he was the number one in the program. There were about 15 other cadets in the aviation program. And Arturo was up there. He was number one in the aviation. So he was putting the time and the effort. I'm very proud to say that he was the first one to get his written exam, and he got 100. And he was the first to fly solo of all the 15 cadets. So he was out there. He was a very good student. At the end of the semester, out of the 15 cadets, only 2 guys got the actual FAA license for a private pilot. One was my son, and the other one was another Mexican kid. So it was funny to me that the international students weren't allowed in the program, and they were the only ones who got the actual FAA license. So that made me real proud. When they said the names of the cadets that got the license, and my son stood up, and the other kid stood up, it was the proudest day of my life. I mean, I was out of myself. It was a surreal experience. So happy. After that, he got a scholarship into Baylor. He went into IT. He was a computer system engineer. And he did all his studies there. He graduated, and he came down to Mexico. So I told him, "Arturo, let's continue with your training. How about IFR?" And he started the IFR training. So we got an instructor. He did all the motions, and it was a tough license to get. And he did it. When he got his check ride, and he landed after the check ride in the Cessna 206, when he was walking to me, he just gave me a thumbs up, and I was the proudest. And I purchased a small tailwheel aircraft, a Carbon Cub. It's a 2-seater, so the pilot is in the front and the passenger is in the back. It's a very small aircraft. And I wanted him to get more training in different types of aircraft. So this aircraft required something that's called a tailwheel endorsement. And we set up a trip to the Austin area to get his training. And I left him at the airport with an instructor, and they flew off and started his tail dragger training. When the training finished in Austin, we were ready to come back to Mexico. And the day was very windy, so I said, "Arturo, let me take this leg." And we got in the aircraft, we said bye to the instructors, topped off the aircraft, and boom, we flew back to Mexico. And we stopped on the border for the customs procedures that you have to do in Nuevo Laredo, inside Mexico. And we were waiting for the customs officer, just chatting, and I asked him, "Hey, Arturo, do you want to exchange seats? Maybe you want to fly in the front this time." And he said, "Yeah, why not? I'll take it." So we exchanged seats. I went to the back and he was in the front. We got cleared by customs and we just took off. It was a VFR day. The destination airport was VFR. Everything was nice, but we had a strong tailwind. I mean, a tailwind from the north, giving us a great speed down to Mexico. That we were going to Monterrey. So he was flying the plane. He was licensed. He was rated. He was everything IFR rated. So he was in control. And I was just a passenger in the back. When we approached Mexico, there was a little bit of a hilly terrain right before entering the city. And there was a little bit of a cloud layer above that hilly terrain. So there was a gap between the little hills and the ceiling. So we took that gap. And when we got into that gap, because of the tailwind that was hitting us, we started getting beat. I mean, it was incredible turbulence. It hit us all over the place. It was so bad that when the wind took us, we almost hit a mountain. And he immediately reacted to move us away from that mountain. And we almost hit another peak in another place. And so he was struggling with the plane. And I said to myself, this is not good. So over the intercom, I said, Arturo, let's climb. Let's get out of here. So he put power, pulled on the stick, and we started climbing. But unfortunately, we got into IMC. We got into the clouds. And I told him, Arturo, remember your training. We are IFR. Just keep your heading, and let's climb out of here. I said, I'm going to shut up because he's a pilot. I don't want to be like backseat driving. So I just grabbed my phone, the seat, and I was just holding for life. And I was only looking at the sides. I had two little windows on each side, and I was looking at those windows, and all of a sudden, on the window on this side, I was seeing the ground, and like a few seconds later, I saw sky, and then ground again, like in a fraction of a second, sky, ground, sky. And I thought to myself, oh, we're spinning. And I said, this is where we die. I mean, that's the only thought that came into my mind. And after that, I believe that was about, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 seconds. And boom, I lost it. I forgot about that part. When I opened my eyes, I was hanging inside the aircraft upside down, looking at the ground like this distance from my eyes, and I was looking at dirt and a little bit of grass. And I said, what the hell is going on? Grass? It didn't make sense to me. I was like, so I put my arms and I pushed out, and for some reason I went into my back and I fell outside the aircraft. And when I looked up, I saw the aircraft like right there, the tail and the sky and a lot of wind, and it was very cold and I was shivering. My glasses exploded on the impact, and this eye was completely shut, a lot of blood. And when I tried to move, I had a very strong pain in my right leg. And when I looked at my leg, I saw both of these bones were sticking out. And my foot was bent out of shape. So I said, wow, I broke my leg. And it was bleeding profusely. And I was shivering, but I was in a relaxed, I was not stressed, I was not panicked. I think I was out of it for about 30 minutes because I was shivering so much. When I understood what had happened, immediately I was looking for my son, but I couldn't see him. The plane was like there, and I couldn't see him. So I called for his name and listened and called him again and listened, and no answer. So, I don't know, some kind of survival instinct came into me, and I said, well, okay, so my son is not answering. What else can I do? I saw my leg bleeding, so I took my belt and I put a tourniquet on my leg to stop the bleeding. And I tried to straighten my leg because the leg was in an awkward position. So with my other foot, I brought it up so that it was like normal. And it was painful as unbelievable. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see because I didn't have my glasses, but I could see shapes. And lo and behold, my phone was right there. So I got my phone, and I couldn't see if the phone was in this position or like this or the other way around. So I just touched it all over the place, and I found the camera. So I said, okay, this is the back, this is the front. And I tapped on it, and it lit up, but I couldn't see what was there. So I said, well, Siri, call my wife. And it had signal, and it rang, and my wife answered the phone. And I said, well, what am I going to do now? If I tell him that I'm in an accident, she's going to freak out, and she might not be able to help me. So in my coolest voice, I said, hey, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm in the supermarket. And we started chit-chatting a little bit about nothing at all. And she told me, weren't you flying back home today? I said, yeah. By the way, I landed out of an airport, and I need a little bit of your help. Would you mind helping me? And she said, yeah, what do you need? And I said, well, I'm going to send you a location from my phone, and I want you to send this location to my friend Francisco, who has a chopper. And she started getting suspicious. What do you mean a chopper? Why do you need a chopper? And I said, Alma, do you want me to help me, or do you want to continue chit-chatting? I need your help. So I transmitted the importance of the message. We hung up, and I fiddled with the phone for a few minutes because I couldn't see how to get the location. But I was able to do it. I was able to go to an app that gave me my location. I copied the app, sent it to my wife, and I called her again. And she said, okay, I have your location, but I don't see an airport there. You're in a mountain. I said, yeah, we landed here in the mountain. And she said, how's Arturo Jr.? And I said, well, I don't know. He's not responding. I'm hoping for the best, but right now I need a rescue. So please help me with that. I'm going to save battery, so I have to let you go. And I hung up. So after that, I was shivering so bad. I think I was maybe going into shock because of the cold. It was a very cold day. So I started my routine. I checked my tourniquet. I had to untie it for a few seconds because the blood has to flow. And then I tightened it up again. I called my son. I threw some rocks at the plane, see if he answered. I had no answer. And I got into the routine of checking myself. So I started touching my body, see what else I had broken. I knew that my leg and my eye was broken. So I started taking pictures of my body, and I contacted a friend whose name is Raul. He's a doctor. So I called him up and I said, Raul, I'm in an accident. It's a bad one. I need you to prepare the hospital because I hope I'm going to be there soon. And I need a specialist for my eye, maybe plastic surgery. I sent him a picture of the face. I sent him a picture of the bone. And I don't think I have anything else broken. So he said, okay, I'll take care of it. And we hung up. And then I said, well, what else can I do? So I called my insurance broker, their insurance guy. And I say, hey, Carlos, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm just playing golf. Do you have a minute? Yeah. And he said, yeah, sure. So I was in an accident, and I need you to go to your office, pull out my insurance policy, and go to the hospital because I'm in a bad shape, and I need you to prepare everything. I don't want the guy in the hospital to start asking my name and my credit card. Please prepare everything because I'm going to be there, and I need everything to be ready. A few minutes later, a chopper appeared. And I was waving at the chopper, and it left. So I called my buddy, Francisco, and I told him, hey, Francisco, the chopper is here, but it left. And he said, don't worry. He already saw you, and he's guiding the ambulance guys to your location because it's it's in the mountains, so it was not easy. And he told me, save your battery. It's okay. I just turned off the phone and I just stay there. And maybe 35 or 40 minutes later, my good friend Leopoldo comes in out of the woods. He learned about the location and he just drove out there and walked like 2 miles to find me. And I said, well, what are you doing here, dude? Well, I knew that you had an accident, so I'm here to help. And he told me, what do you need? So I'm cold. So he took off his jacket and put it here. And it was the best feeling. I felt warm. He had it on him, so it was hot. And I told him, please check on Arturo because I can't hear him. I've been calling. So he went around, and unfortunately, Arturo died instantly on the accident. And he told me when he went to see him, he just made me a thumbs down. So it hit me that at that point it hit me that I have lost my son. And it was the worst feeling you can ever get. And a lot of things came in my mind, and I don't know, it blew me off. So once I got to the hospital, everything was ready. My friends was there, my wife, a lot of people. So they put me into the OR, started working on me, put some anesthetic, they patched me up. That's basically the story of the accident. And I stayed for about 3 weeks in the hospital. They fixed my leg with they put a rod inside the bone, and they put the bone back together, 2 screws here, 2 screws there. And about 3 or 4 months later, I was able to start walking. Well, if I would have to do this all over again, because I relive this every night before I go to sleep, the demons come in my head and I relive the story time and time again. I would tell you that I would do 1,000 things differently. There were many mistakes. I would have turned back. I would have instead of going near the valley, I would have climbed and go IMC. Or just simply land at a road. There's 1,000 things that we should have done. But having said that, if you do get into an accident, a very important thing to do is always make a flight plan. We didn't make a flight plan. We just took off VFR southbound. Nobody knew we were there. So a flight plan would immediately send you search and rescue. Number 2, my cell phone saved my life because nobody knew I was there. And if I wouldn't have called my wife and sent her the coordinates, maybe I would already be there. Still be there, because it was so remote. And I was lucky that I had a signal, and I was lucky that my phone was intact. It was not broken, and it worked. So maybe a good survival skill is put your phone with your body, maybe in a good pocket with a ziplock, so that it's there and it's safe for you to take in the case of an emergency. And maybe get an extra pair of glasses, I don't know, in another pocket. And those will be some important things to know. And maybe you won't have a signal, but at least you have a chance. Yeah. I miss him every minute of every hour of every day. There's no, I think about him every moment. We were best buddies. He loved aviation. He was very good at it. I was so happy that he was enjoying something that I also enjoyed. You never know how much a person is important in your life until you miss him. Right now I feel as if my heart was just ripped out of my chest. I would have traded places with him in a second. Destiny had a role to play, that he was flying in the front and I was in the back, and that's why I survived and he didn't. I don't know. I miss him horribly. Yeah. It's something I have learned to live with it, but the pain is always there. And he was such a cool personality. He was friendly. He didn't boast about his aviation skills. He was very humble. Everybody in the family misses him incredibly.